King Mont is finally coming to global. His info is up on warofthevisionscalc.com, and that's good enough for me. He's likely going to be confirmed when we see the May login bonus tomorrow morning, but we can expect to get some of his shards for free from that as well. So even though I'm not feeling 100% today, I had to make this video. I'm literally that excited for this unit. I'll definitely be pulling for him next week. So let's take a look at his kit, and you can decide whether or not you want to pull for him as well. As always, I'd like to thank warofthevisionscalc.com for this early information on King Mont. I was able to change all of my Japanese information to the English stuff, which is always better. So let's take a look at this guy. So he's a fire unit, 100 cost. It means his shards cost double price. His pull rate is low, but he's gonna have some pretty cool stuff in his kit. He's also got the 3 move, the 1 jump, and then he has Subjob, Nightblade, and Ninja, which are both very good support jobs. And then his main job is called Arc Lord. And then he's your classic tank with your armor, helm, accessory, weapon, sword, and he's gonna have a farmable sword that's good for any of your sword wielding fire units, so Delita can use it too. So his level 99 stats are pretty good. I mean, especially because he's gonna be a tank. Tanks can be lower levels and be successful because a big part of their kit are their skills and then also their resistances, which will both be intact for him at level 99 for the most part. So he's still going to be a pretty viable tank at this level, but you're going to want to go to EX jobs to get max value. And then we'll take him to level 120 here, and don't worry, I'll show you the comparison after. And his stats go big. So his attack actually isn't that high compared to EX jobs. He's not meant to be an attacker, although he could do some damage. He's meant to be a tank. And then the only other thing I'll point out here is that he does have a high natural defense, and that's really great. His master ability is going to be your classic 10% HP for fire units, and then the increased fire attack 15, and then he gets area resistance for himself 15, and he can pair that with his TMR ability that we'll see in a second and get some pretty good AoE resistance, and then he'll get some more HP from his board. Like I was saying, I'm going to show you the comparison here between 99 and 120, and you'll see that the major thing that King Mont gains is a boatload of HP. His agility doesn't change, his defense goes up just a little bit, his attack goes up, you know, about 90 there, but that's not that important because, again, I like my tanks to tank. If they do anything extra, that's fine, but the main thing here is that you do get a lot of HP, you do get some defense, and you get access to the EX job abilities. So there's one other comparison that I wanted to make, which is level 115 versus 120. And I've done some number crunching here, and you're going to see the stats that you get. So when you go to 115, you only have to pay 200 Mind Spheres versus 400 for the full 120 experience. You're going to miss out on some stats, and you're going to miss out on a 120 skill. So often people decide whether they want to go to 120 based on if the skill's any good. But you also have to look at the stats. For example, I've EX'd Liart, and her 120 is so much better stat-wise than her 115. So even if you didn't like Stop Arrow, which you should, you would want to look at it at the stat differences. With King Mont, it's actually the opposite. He doesn't have a really good stat difference. His HP goes up by 360, and that's pretty noticeable because he gets 200 HP on a board node. But then otherwise, AP goes up by 4, and that's not bad. Like that's not something to think that's a small amount. AP is very important, but still, attack goes up by 23. His base attack is also going to go up by that 23. It's not a board node or anything, and his 30% attack buff, I'm going to start putting that in these videos so that you can see, get an idea of how much their base attack is affecting the buffs that they're getting, and it's pretty sizable. So when you use his 30% attack passive, you're going to get 105 attack if he's level 120, but you're only going to get 99, so not that much left, 6.9 less when you're at 115, so there's not a huge boost there either. And then the agility does not change. That would be a major reason to go to 120. For example, Gilgamesh gets a bunch of agility when he goes to 120, and then otherwise his defense stays the same as well. So really, the only thing that he gains from 115 to 120 is going to be his level 25 EX job skill. And if you are fine not using that, then you can save yourself 200 Mind Spheres and so much Visior. There really isn't a reason to take him to 120 just for these stats, and that's just my opinion, but I think a lot of people and a lot of players, especially free-to-play players that want to get him, can be very safe leaving him at 115 and even working on him over time in the barracks. Next up are the resistances, and it's your classic elemental: weakness to water and then strength against ice. He is strong against blind, stop, and poison, and then he has really great resists here, so slash resist, always good. Pierce and projectile resist are plus, and then he's weak to striking, which seems to be most people's weakness, and a lot of units have striking now, 2B, Oron, and then of course my boy Raldor. They're all going to be punching people. But the big thing I want to actually draw attention to here is the 0% magic resist. That's actually really good. A lot of physical tanks have a negative magic resist. He has 0%, and he has other ways to raise his stats that I actually think he'll be able to take on magic damage just fine, especially if you tech for it with your cards or with your equipment. So I think he can be a all threat tank, which is a pretty big deal. His TMR is also very cool. It gives quite a bit of HP and then some defense and spirit, which is great. And then it gives a buff to yourself and allies that give them all 25 area resistance. So if you pair that with his master ability, all of a sudden he has 40 area resistance, plus all of his other resistances, plus his, you know, his elemental resistance, etc. He can seriously take a lot of AoE damage. Now, if we take a look at his passives, there's some very specific ones for him. The first is Providence of Leonis, which is your classic defense HP buff. Everybody gets this when you're a tank. The paladins, they all get this. But then it gets upgraded with the EX upgrade to Destiny of Leonis, and then it gives you a self-hate, 5 hate, just passively in the battle. That's really important because it allows you to not use his hate skill and then use other TP skills. And he has a lot of TP skills that you want to use. But it also affects your opponent's AI from the start without having to do anything. We've all seen that with Dwayne already. It's a pretty powerful effect. Next up is Nightblade Mastery. This is a really strong skill, accuracy and attack. He doesn't care about losing evasion. If you're going to build him for attack, then you might do this, but I'm honestly not going to worry too much about that. Inner Flame will give you acquired AP up by 50. That's very strong. It's just hard to justify that with these other passives. Shadowrunner is definitely a strong choice for just the agility. Agility is always good. If I'm going live PvP, I'm probably running this. And then Shukuchi gives you that move and jump, and that's map dependent, but you often want your tank to get out in front of everybody else. And if this is a way of doing it, then yeah, you're going to sacrifice something else for it. That's not a problem at all. He gets his own counter called Astrologer's Protection, so that's obviously Ramada's protecting him. Very cool. And this is a all damage reduction, and that's huge. Again, paladins get physical damage reduction, spellblades get magic damage reduction, Mont gets both. That kind of lends some credibility to my theory that he is not just a physical tank, he's an all-around tank, and that counter ability is going to go a long way for that. Then he gets counter swing and poison barb, and those, in my opinion, are not things that you would equip on him. He's just going to have Astrologer's Protection. So here we have his main skills for Archlord, and we'll take a look at all of them. So Proclamation, great naming on all of these skills, by the way. This is your hate increase. It's a pretty sizable amount, and it also gives you agility. It's honestly a home run TP skill. The problem is he has so many TP skills. That doesn't matter though, it's still really good, and you're going to be using this a lot. You might find situations where you want to turn it off and just use the passive, but I think for the most part you'll leave it on. Then Iron Blow, this is a barrier break, pretty straightforward, low TP, AP costs, and then low damage. Fangs of Leonis, and this is his large damage skill. It's got a bigger range, and it's also going to have a chance to disable, which is such a good status effect. Mercy's Grace is a cast time TP skill that gives elemental resistance to everybody, to all the allies. It's got a good AoE buff, and you can likely get Mont to be your slowest unit, have everybody stack up. He's going to cast this. Hopefully it goes off in time, and that's pretty good. That also, again, is lending our credibility to the all damage Mont tank, because he'll increase his elemental resistance, and that's kind of going to be like a magic resist against any element type of magic, except for non-elemental magic. So that's actually pretty good. Claws of the Young Lion is a Kotetsu type skill that has a big diamond AoE. It's going going to have this decreased slash resist 38%, and then it's also going to get upgraded with the EX upgrade to be Claws of the Young King. And what happens then is that you actually get an extra cost of it. You get a reduced amount of AP consumption on it, and then it's still going to do your medium damage. It's still going to do slash resist break, which is just huge, absolutely huge. I'm really excited about this skill. I think it's obviously something that you would want to go to EX for. And then finally, Kalem's Pride, which is something that we really have to think about because this is his job level 25 EX skill. And this will give him 15 defense and restore his CT by 400 times. And that's a pretty sizable amount. It's another solo TP skill. If he can use this, you can stack some pretty silly amounts of defense with it. It's really tempting, but I strongly think that if you are on a budget, if you want to save Visior, you can hold off on this. This skill is not worth going all the way to 120 and then buying 200 extra cost Mont shards. Now the exception is if we just find out that Mont shards are incredibly easy to get, the spring medals pay for them. There's a crazy step up banner. You can get them from events, whatever it is, and it's easy to get them. Then just max them, do whatever you want, right? It's your account. But if you are on a budget and we have more 100 cost units coming out, we've got Dwayne EX, we've got Black Rose Helena, then you probably want to save your Visior, and this is such like a no-brainer. You still get almost like you get like 99% of the unit by going to 115, so really consider that. And then on his sub job, he gets a dual break, pretty standard stuff. But the other thing is this Breath of Serenity, and this is another cast time skill. It gives regen on a range. I don't like this that much. I'm not going to be using this sub job. Next up are the other jobs that he has, which is Nightblade and Ninja. Nightblade is a welcome sight because you get double resist. This is just such a good TP skill, and again, it's going to compete with all the other TP skills he has. Sometimes you can only use one or two before your guy goes into action, so it's really important that you build up your AI the way that you want it to run out. Obviously in live PvP, he's going to be such a good threat. You can run him towards people. You can use him to buff up your team, run him towards people, and block them from getting to the rest of your team. But in auto, you'll have to pick and choose. And then he gets Maiming Slash. I like this a lot for a few reasons. You know, it's an AoE with some range and it decreases healing power. I think that's all really good. The other skills here, AP Drain is really strong, as a lot of people are finding out. But then he also has like these other AP skills that he's just going to be using anyway. So on Ninja, Catan is really good to use because it's that non-damage type, and also because Sasuke uses it. So and then Dream Within a Dream is your 3-hit chaining ability that you can use for raids and stuff. So definitely always good to talk about that too. Okay, next up is the Limit Burst, and he has a Limit Burst straight out of Dragon Ball Z. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to put it up on screen, and this is the King of Leonis Limit Burst. It does a large amount of damage and has a 67% chance to inflict Berserk for 3 turns for target. It hits everybody around him. This is a limit burst that you don't have to level up because the chance to inflict Berserk doesn't increase with the levels, only the damage does. And since he's not someone that you're necessarily going to want to deal damage with, I mean, you always want to deal damage with people, he's just not your carry that's doing that. You can probably level up a different limit burst and you can still berserk people. It means they're going to be attacking you, but it means they're not going to be using skills, which is pretty cool. And the chance to be this high is very significant. So this AoE pattern is also very cool because he's a tank. People surround him as they try to hit him, and then he's going to be able to hit them all right back. I've got a boatload of comparisons to do today, and the first 2 that we're going to do are level 99 comparisons. So we have Wall and we have Agrius, and these are 2 tanks that people use to target all types of damage depending on what they want to do. And you can see that King Mont has them beat in so many categories. Obviously all his stats are just higher from EX, but then he also has that self-generating hate. I mean, Wall has that too, but King Mont gets that agility, 65 agility compared to 52 and 61. The slash resist paired with also having strong projectile and pierce resists. And then again, yes, he doesn't have magic resist, but he has the elemental resist buff. He has the ability, you know, we can stack a lot of magic resist now with Tidus's necklace, with things like magic resist from a spellblade. There's lots of ways to account for that. So he's definitely going to be a step above any tank that we have right now. However, we are going to get other tanks. You don't have to go for King Mont. In JP, they got an FF1 rerun, and they got a WoL EX, and they also got Charlotte shortly after that, who apparently, according to Umber Rays, pairs really well with Cloud. So there's going to be other choices for you. WoL, of course, you already know that he's an all-general tank. Charlotte is a magic tank, but she actually has ways to buff her defense, and she has good resistances, so she can be kind of an all-rounder as well. So if you want to wait for a non-double cost unit, then you could go for WoL or you could go for Charlotte. But still, comparing them, you can see that King Mont wins with the agility. He wins with the HP over Charlotte. And he's actually weaker than the two of them, but then he has things like, you know, he has a really solid AP base there with 27 when you take him all the way to 120, and getting things off, like your attacks off with your AP, that's really helpful. So I really like him. I think he's the best of the lot, but I think you can't go wrong. To be honest, you can build these other tanks. And now, of course, I have to do one more comparison, because whenever I talk about tanks, I never talk about Whisper, and there's always one person in the comments that calls me out on it, and that's fair. You're right to do that. So Whisper at 120, she's also getting an EX. She's going to have all-around resistances for real, not like Mont with a 0 resist on magic. She can do it all depending on what you want her to do. Obviously, because her resistances are so good, her HP is very low, but she is actually not that slow. She gets defense and she gets spirit, and she gets a really cool kit. She gets Protect and Shell. She has ability to go with Night skills, but she has the ability to go Spellblade, and then she can do Magic Resist. So I think that she's also viable if you want to make your account have a one focus tank. Then King Mont is not your only option. Unless you're me, then he is the only option. So finally, I want to talk about the King Mont VC, and we don't actually know if it's going to get a global upgrade yet, but we can still talk about what it does offer. So the stats, they are attack based, but it also gives some defense. The bestowed abilities for fire units only, and it gives you area resistance, another 10%, and then some attack to boost up Mont's attack. This is pretty crazy. I like this, that you could put this on other fire units. If you put it on Mont, he's going to have such silly amounts of area resistance. It's not even funny. And then the party ability gives you defense debuff resistance 20, and then HP 30, or sorry, 25%. That's a pretty sizable buff. With EX units, they have huge HP pools, they have good base HPs, and they will get a lot of HP from this. So this card doesn't read that exciting, but it's actually very good. Defense debuffs are so much more common now. So for example, Tidus has a defense break, and then you have somebody like 9S has the defense break. Orlando's your classic defense break. Whoops. And what this does is the defense debuff resistance. If you have a 20% resist, it means that there's a 20% chance that that debuff won't happen. It's all or nothing. It's not 20% of the defense is not decreased. There's a 20% chance that your defense does not get reduced at all. And if you have any skills that stack with that, besides other party abilities, then that would work as well. So the global exclusive buff, we don't know what it could be or if there's going to be one, although yeah, there's probably going to be one. I don't know what it would be, to be honest, because Mont already has so much. Normally you see things like defense penetration or whatever. I think if you're going for Mont, if you're going for a fire party, then this card's pretty good. I'm likely going to pull for it, but if the global exclusive buff, puts it over the edge, I think a lot of people will. And then otherwise, I think it's a maybe for people. It really depends, because it's an investment of Visior. I don't think it's a make or break card. I just think it is a good card. And then finally, the level 99 buff for fire units is increased max damage. I'm not that interested in that. I'm just more interested in the rest of the card. I like the idea of putting this card on other fire units to give them some area resistance, to give them some defense, and then King Mont is still going to get that party buff that is going to be so good. Okay, so there are some comparisons. This card is going to give you a maxed out golem just for fire units, and then you're also going to get the Admirer's Rivalry, which gives you increased defense debuff resistance 30%. The Mont card only gives you 20%, but that is the other place that we get it from. So if you actually think, oh, that sounds kind of cool, well, this is where you would get it from. The question is, should you pull King Mont? And I'm going to say yes, but I'll give you some more information just because he is just a strong tank against physical damage, but I think he's going to be able to take it all. I think the slash resist break is huge. We already know it is from Gilgamesh. If you build slashing teams, that's going to be a really big deal. He can buff elemental resist for your entire party. I am so excited to use that in live PvP. It's going to be casting time skills. TP buffs are really hard to use in auto PvP, but you can use them. And then also status effects. He can do disable. He can do the berserk limit burst at a high rate. And then he's got the passive and active hate generation. And that gives you so much wiggle room to mess around with his AI. I really think that he's going to be just such a strong tank, and we just know he is already, basically, right, from JP. So and then cons: low attack, I don't care, he's a tank, and then water is a strong element. Tidus is not going anywhere. Winter Victoria is still really good even without her EX, and we know that Zazan UR is going to be a water unit. We know people have their Ildiras, and she'll get an EX eventually. I think that, you know, waters, and we're also going to get a new water whatever they're called, mage, Kodama wielder at some point as well. So there's lots of water units around. There's multiple water magic units. He does have some counters, and that's something to consider. And then for his card, well, HP is a good stat with EX jobs, and then the bestowed attack resist and defense will make Mont or one of your other fire units even more tanky. But then otherwise, you know, I just think that to put this card on your in PvP when you have 3 cards, you're gonna sacrifice some kind of offensive utility. You're gonna sacrifice something like a resist card like Fenrir or Solidus, just so that you can fit this in for your fire party. I think it could be worth it, but I don't know. Like it's really going to be you know, something that will need some testing. I think the defense debuff chance is so low. I really wish it was higher. And you know what I'm just noticing right now is that the card has a piece of Stern's mask on it. Very nice touch. Okay, that's going to be it for the should you pull, and King Mont is a big yes. Now, if you're free to play, should you be pulling for a 100 cost unit? Maybe not, but that's fine. I'm talking about if this is a good unit objectively that people should go for. Yeah, he's a good unit, and you're going to be very happy that you got him. The card is not mandatory, but I do think it's pretty good. I think a lot of people will choose to skip it because they're going to be wanting to save up for the multitude of stuff that's coming next, including immediately after a Phoenix Fire only card that's going to boost your fire party. So people will most likely want to go for that because you can only fit so many cards on a PvP team, and I know Cabbage is gonna call me out for just talking about PvP. Yes, he's gonna be great for PvE as well, but that's just the way that I'm kind of focused on this game. So at the end of the day, it's your own decision what you do with your own money, with your own account, with your own Visior, but I wish you luck if you are gonna pull, and I'll definitely be pulling as well, so you can expect that at some point whenever I can do that video. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.